everyone, and welcome to today's lesson. Have you ever heard native speakers say something that doesn't make sense literally? That's because they are using idioms. Idioms are phrases that don't mean exactly what they say, but they add color and expression to the language. Today, we're going to learn 15 commonly used idioms that will make your English sound more fluent and natural. I'll explain the meaning, give you examples, and show you how to use them in conversation. Let's dive in. Break the ice, all right. Let's start with our first idiom. Break the ice. What does it mean? It means to start a conversation in a way that makes people feel comfortable. Imagine you're at a party where you don't know anyone. You could start by saying, like, hey, that's a cool shirt. Where did you get it? That's breaking the ice. Example. At the meeting, Sarah told a funny story to break the ice. Think about a time you had to break the ice. How did you start the conversation? 2. Hit the nail on the head. This idiom means to describe something exactly or to be completely right about something. Example, when Mark said the company needs better communication, he really hit the nail on the head. Next time someone makes a really accurate statement, you can say, wow, you hit the nail on the head. 3. Let the cat out of the bag. This one is funny. Imagine you have a secret, but you accidentally tell it before you're supposed to. That's letting the cat out of the bag. Example, Emma let the cat out of the bag about the surprise party. Think of a time when you or someone you know let the cat out of the bag. What happened? A piece of cake. If something is very easy to do, we say it's a piece of cake. Example, the math test was a piece of cake because I studied well. Can you think of something you find super easy? Say, for me, cooking pasta is a piece of cake. 5. Burn the midnight oil. If you stay up late working or studying, you are burning the midnight oil. Example, I had to burn the midnight oil to finish my report. Have you ever burned the midnight oil for a deadline? 6. For under the weather. If you feel sick or unwell, you say you are under the weather. Example, I'm feeling under the weather today, so I'll stay home and rest. Next time you feel sick, you can say, I'm under the weather today. 7. Costs an arm and a leg. If something is very expensive, it costs an arm and a leg. Example, that designer bag costs an arm and a leg. Think of something really expensive. Say, that sports car costs an arm and a leg. 8. Spill the beans. This is similar to let the cat out of the bag. It means to reveal a secret. Example, Tom spilled the beans about the new office policy. Have you ever accidentally spilled the beans? A 9. Bite the bullet. This means to do something difficult or unpleasant that you've been avoiding. Example, I hate going to the dentist, but I have to bite the bullet and go. What is something difficult you need to do soon? Say, I need to bite the bullet. And 10. Hit the sack. This idiom means to go to bed. Example, I'm so tired, I'm going to hit the sack now. Next time you're sleepy, say, I need to hit the sack. 11. Pull someone's leg. If you joke with someone in a playful way, you're pulling their leg. Example, I thought he was serious, but he was just pulling my leg. Have you ever pulled someone's leg? 12. Jump on the bandwagon. This means to join a trend that is already popular. Example, everyone is jumping on the bandwagon of online learning. Can you think of a trend you joined? 13. The ball is in your court. This means it's your turn to take action. Example, I sent them an offer, so now the ball is in their court. Think of a situation where someone is waiting for your decision. 14. Keep your chin up. This means stay positive, even in difficult situations. Example, I failed my test, but I'll keep my chin up and try again. Encourage someone by saying, keep your chin up. 15. Go the extra mile. If you put in extra effort, you go the extra mile. Example, she always goes the extra mile to help her customers. Can you think of a time you went the extra mile? Now that you've learned 15 essential idioms, challenge yourself to use them in real-life conversations this week. Choose 5 idioms from today's lesson and try using them in different situations. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more interactive English lessons. See you in the next video.
Ever get that feeling you're at a party maybe, or just trying to compliment someone, and you just want to sound like you really know English, like a native speaker.
Right.
Well, today we're diving deep into the secret code. Everyday idioms.
Yeah.
We've got 15 of them. And we're gonna go way beyond just, simple definitions.
Yeah.
We'll explore their origins.
Right.
But more importantly, how you can actually use them.
Yeah.
In real life.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
These idioms, they're more than just these kind of colorful expressions.
Right.
They really give us insights into how a culture thinks.
Yeah.
and communicates.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Imagine a room full of new faces.
Okay.
You know, that awkward silence hanging in the air. What idiom pops into your mind for that scenario?
Oh, break the ice, of course. It's all about easing that initial tension, right? And getting the conversation flowing.
Yeah.
And, you'll notice that a lot of idioms use these physical metaphors to represent these like abstract social situations.
Right.
That's kind of a key to understanding how they work.
That is such a great point. So it's like you're not just learning vocabulary.
Right.
You're like deciphering a cultural code.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So instead of just standing there awkwardly, you could say like, hey, I love your shoes.
Right.
Where did you get them?
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Ice broken.
Exactly. And notice how that simple question, it does so much more than just, break the silence.
Mm-hmm.
It creates like a point of connection,
right.
a shared interest, however small.
Yeah.
That can really kind of get things moving,
in the right direction. Totally.
Like in the right direction, yeah.
Now, let's say the conversation's going well. Someone makes a brilliant point.
Okay.
Perfectly summarizing what everyone's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't there an idiom for like nailing it? Like,
hit the nail on the head.
Yes.
Yeah. It really highlights that sharp accuracy.
Right.
Like a skilled carpenter hitting the nail, perfectly.
I've always loved that visual, that sense of precision. It makes me think about how many idioms rely on imagery that's almost like physical to convey like a very abstract idea.
Absolutely. That's it. It's a way to make these complex concepts, tangible, relatable.
Okay, but what about when things go wrong? Like someone accidentally reveals a secret?
Oh.
Maybe about a surprise party or something?
Oh, then they've let the cat out of the bag.
Oopsie.
Yeah, it implies an unintentional slip.
Right.
Like a secret that was meant to be kept hidden.
I've always wondered about that one. Why a cat? Why not a dog or a bird?
Well, one theory traces it back to medieval markets.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they used to sell piglets in bags.
What?
But sometimes a dishonest seller would swap the piglet for a less valuable cat.
Oh, no.
So letting the cat out of the bag exposed the trickery.
Wow. That origin story is such a surprise. It really adds another layer of meaning to the idiom.
Right. It also shows how these idioms can reflect historical practices and cultural values.
For sure. Speaking of surprises, isn't there an idiom for when something is like incredibly easy to do?
Oh, a piece of cake.
Yeah.
This one conjures up that image of effortless enjoyment.
Right.
Like savoring a delicious slice of cake without a single worry.
Okay, maybe parallel parking isn't a piece of cake for me, but I get what you mean.
Exactly. It's that sense of ease and simplicity. Think about those times when you've had to burn the midnight oil to get something done.
Oh, tell me about it. Like a late night study session before a big exam, fueled by coffee and sheer willpower.
It really paints a vivid picture, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
The flickering lamplight, the stacks of books, it emphasizes dedication and pushing through fatigue to reach a goal.
Totally. But sometimes all that hard work can leave you feeling, not your best.
Under the weather.
Yeah.
That captures that sense of being a bit unwell or run down.
Yeah, like when you're fighting off a cold and everything feels just a little bit harder.
Right.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, yeah. It's a common human experience. And it's interesting how this idiom uses the metaphor of weather to describe a physical state.
Yeah.
It's as if our bodies are mirroring the environment.
And those health woes can sometimes lead to medical bills that just seem outrageous.
Costs us an arm and a leg.
Ouch.
That one really emphasizes the high price, the financial burden.
Makes you wonder how body parts became like a measure of value.
It likely reflects a time when physical health and wholeness were paramount.
Right.
Losing a limb would have had a profound impact on someone's life and livelihood.
It makes you think about the historical context behind these expressions. It's not just about the words, it's about the story they tell. Now, we talked about letting the cat out of the bag, but isn't there another idiom for accidentally revealing information?
Spill the beans?
Similar idea, but the imagery is a bit different.
So why beans? What's the connection there?
Well, the origin's a bit murky,
Uh-huh.
but one theory suggests it relates to ancient voting practices.
Okay.
Beans were sometimes used as ballots. Really?
So spilling the beans would be like accidentally revealing the election results before the count was finished.
Oh, that makes sense. It's that premature disclosure of information. It makes you wonder if voting with beans was as messy as it sounds.
It certainly adds a new dimension to the phrase bean counter, doesn't it?
Right. Speaking of messes, How about when you have to face something unpleasant head on, no matter how much you'd rather avoid it?
That's when you bite the bullet.
It really captures that feeling of steeling yourself to deal with something difficult. Do you think people ever actually bit bullets to endure pain?
Thankfully, it's just a metaphor.
Right.
It highlights that grit and determination to push through discomfort.
After a long day of biting bullets, wouldn't you say it's time to?
It's hit the sack. That's the universal language of seeking rest and a good night's sleep.
It's funny how that simple phrase evokes such a feeling of relief and relaxation. Now, before we move on to more idioms, have you ever been in a situation where you had to break the ice?
Yeah.
Or maybe you accidentally let the cat out of the bag?
We'd love to hear your experiences.
Yeah. It's amazing how idioms can capture those universal human experiences, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, thinking about social dynamics reminds me of those times when you're teasing a friend just for fun.
Oh, in that case, you're pulling their leg. It's all about playful deception, right? Creating a moment of amusement without any real harm.
Right, like when you tell your friend their shoelace is untied, even though it's not.
Yeah.
Just to get a little rise out of them.
Exactly. You create a shared moment of laughter.
Yeah.
A bit of bonding through that lighthearted teasing.
Exactly. But then you have those trends that seem to catch on like wildfire.
Oh.
Everyone's suddenly doing it.
Right.
Whether it's a new dance move or a certain fashion style or whatever, that's when people are jumping on the bandwagon.
That's right. It's about joining a popular trend.
Right.
Often for the sake of fitting in or social acceptance.
It makes me think of those viral challenges you see on social media. Like suddenly everyone's filming themselves doing the same thing.
Right.
Like, is it really about the trend itself?
Yeah.
Or is it more about being part of the group?
That is a great question. It really highlights the power of social influence.
Right.
Like how we're often drawn to what's popular
Yeah.
or what everyone else is doing.
It makes you think about how much our language is influenced by these social dynamics.
Yeah.
Like we use idioms to fit in,
Yeah.
to show that we understand the cultural code.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Now imagine you've made a proposal,
Okay.
maybe offered a solution to a problem,
Right.
and you're waiting for the other person's response.
Oh, that waiting game can be nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't there an idiom for that feeling of anticipation?
The ball is in their court.
Yeah.
It signifies that shift in responsibility.
Right.
You know, the next move, the decision,
Yeah.
it's up to them now.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's like you've served the ball in tennis,
Yeah.
and now you're watching, waiting to see how they'll return it.
Exactly. It emphasizes that pause in the interaction, that anticipation of what will happen next.
Okay, but life isn't always a game of tennis, right? We all face those moments that test our resilience,
Yeah.
those challenges that make us want to give up.
When you're feeling discouraged,
Yeah.
it helps to remember the phrase, keep your chin up.
Oh, yeah.
It's that little nudge to stay positive
Right.
and keep going, even when things are tough.
Yeah. I can almost picture someone literally lifting their chin,
Yeah.
like as if to face the challenge head on. It's a reminder to maintain that optimistic outlook.
It highlights that inner strength, that ability to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
Totally. But sometimes it's not just about staying positive.
Yeah.
It's about going above and beyond, exceeding expectations.
That's when you go the extra mile. It suggests a willingness to do more than what's required, to put in that extra effort.
Yeah. I think of it as that dedication to excellence, that desire to not just meet the standard, but surpass it.
Like you're adding that personal touch, that extra level of care and commitment.
Absolutely. As we're exploring these idioms, I'm realizing they're not just about sounding fluent in English.
Yeah.
It's about understanding these subtle nuances of communication, these cultural cues that can make such a difference
Right.
in how we connect with others.
It's about reading between the lines, picking up on those unspoken messages that are embedded in our language.
Now, before we dive into our final set of idioms,
Okay.
which one of these has resonated with you the most so far?
And why? Is it an idiom you use often or one that you aspire to embody in your own interactions? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right?
It is. So we've talked about break the ice, but sometimes you want to get out a conversation right. Like, what's the idiom for
They're
that?
neat around the bush. That's a good one. You're kind of avoiding the main point.
Yeah. You're not being direct. Right. You're kind of dancing around it.
Yeah.
Maybe you're afraid of confrontation or you're just trying to be tactful.
Right. So instead of just saying, hey, I got to run, you're like, well, it's getting late and
Exactly.
yeah.
And, it's interesting how that idiom uses the imagery of someone trying to hunt, but not actually going straight for the prey.
Yeah, it's like a verbal maze.
Right. You're creating this kind of roundabout way of expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be in a situation where you need to be really cautious.
Yeah.
Like walking on eggshells.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It conveys that sense of fragility, like you're trying to avoid making a mistake.
Right, like saying the wrong thing or upsetting someone. It's like you're tiptoeing around a delicate situation.
Exactly. And the imagery really helps us understand that feeling of nervousness and tension. Now, on the flip side, there are times when we just need to take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Go for it. What idiom comes to mind for that?
Take the bull by the horns.
That's it. You're being decisive, taking control of the situation.
It's like that feeling of empowerment. You
Yeah.
know, facing your fears head on. Makes me wonder if anyone's ever actually tried to grab a bull by the horns in real life.
Yikes. Probably not the best idea, but you get the point.
Yeah, it's a metaphor for courage and action. I get it. So we've talked about idioms for different social situations, but what about those phrases that describe our feelings?
Right, like over the moon. That one expresses extreme happiness.
Oh, yeah, like when something amazing happens.
Like you're so joyful you could practically jump over the moon. It's a way to emphasize that intensity of emotion. And, on the other end of the spectrum, we have down in the dumps.
Yeah. Feeling blue, sad, discouraged.
Exactly. It's like you fall into a pit of despair. The imagery really captures that sense of heaviness. Now, before we wrap things up, we have one more idiom that's essential for navigating those tricky situations in life.
Okay, what is it?
Read between the lines. It's about understanding the hidden meanings, the unspoken messages.
Like when someone says one thing, but you can tell they really mean something else.
Right. It encourages us to pay attention to those subtle cues.
Yeah, to go beyond the surface level.
And to consider the context and the speaker's intentions. It's a skill that can be really helpful in all sorts of situations. So that's it for our deep dive into everyday idioms. We've covered 15 of them today, and we hope you've enjoyed exploring their origins, meanings, and how you can actually use them.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure.
So listeners, which idiom resonated with you the most, and why? Let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep those idioms flowing, and remember, language is power.